Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are tackling a stack of research that really forces you to rethink that little orange pill bottle in the medicine cabinet.
It really does.
We're looking at psychotropic medications, antipsychotics, antidepressants, the whole lot, but specifically the trade-offs that, don't always make it onto the warning label.
It's a heavy topic. I think most of us operate on this lock and key assumption.
Right.
You have a chemical imbalance, that's the lock, and the drug is this precise little key that just fits and fixes it.
But looking through these patient surveys and critical essays, that analogy it falls apart really, really quickly.
It does.
It feels less like a key and more like a chemical sledgehammer. I was really stuck on this concept I read of a metabolic storm.
Yes.
We aren't just talking about dry mouth or feeling a bit groggy here. The data on what they call metabolic syndrome is startling.
It is. And metabolic syndrome, or syndrome X, it's not even just one thing. It's a whole cluster of conditions happening at once.
A cluster, okay.
Yeah.
What?
We're talking about dramatic, rapid weight gain, high cholesterol, and insulin resistance. It's like your body's entire engine is starting to fail.
And it happens so fast. I was looking at that 10-week study.
The one comparing clozapine to haloperidol.
Yeah. In just 10 weeks, the patients on clozapine gained 7% of their body weight. 7%. That's a massive physiological shift.
Right, compared to just 1% in the control group. And that weight gain isn't cosmetic, It's a direct precursor to type 2 diabetes.
A precursor.
The research shows that if you develop this syndrome, your risk of cardiovascular mortality, basically dying from heart issues, can triple.
Triple. So we're effectively trying to fix the mind by, breaking the metabolism?
That's the trade-off. But even the fixing the mind part gets complicated because the neurological risks in this stack, they read like a horror story.
They really do. I knew about things like tremors, but neuroleptic malignant syndrome was new to me.
NMS is the absolute extreme end. It's rare, but it's a medical emergency. You get this lead pipe rigidity where your muscles literally lock up.
Wow.
And that's followed by a massive fever and autonomic instability.
Which means your body it loses the ability to regulate its own basic functions, like heart rate and temperature.
Exactly. It's a complete systemic collapse. The mortality rate is still estimated somewhere between 10 and 20%.
And even if you avoid that, you have the chronic stuff like tardive dyskinesia.
Right. Permanent involuntary movements of the face and tongue that might never go away, even after you quit the meds.
The one that really, really hit me, though, was PSSD, post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. The patient accounts from Rosie and Roy were just devastating. Roy described it as total numbness, and Rosie, who's only 23, said she felt stuck behind a glass jar.
And PSSD is so tragic because it's often just dismissed. People write it off as a symptom of depression. Yep. But this is distinct. It's a loss of libido and genital numbness that persists for years after the drug is out of your system. It's not a side effect, it's a life-altering injury.
And this brings us to what I thought was the most mind-bending part of the research, this whole philosophical shift proposed by the psychiatrist Joanna Moncrief.
This is the crucial insight, I think.
She argues we've been looking at these drugs all wrong. We're using a disease-centered model when we should be using a drug-centered one.
Exactly. And the disease-centered model is that insulin analogy. You have diabetes, a defect, and insulin fixes it. Moncrief argues that psychiatry wants to be like that, but the evidence for a specific chemical imbalance just is. Yeah. It's not consistently there before treatment.
So the drug-centered model says what? That these drugs don't fix a broken part.
Correct. It says they are psychoactive substances that create an altered state of consciousness, an abnormal brain state.
So like alcohol.
That's a perfect way to think about it. Alcohol reduces social anxiety, not because you have an alcohol deficiency, but because it induces a state of disinhibition and sedation. Moncrief argues antipsychotics work similarly.
By inducing a state of emotional blunting or indifference.
Precisely.
And the historical context there was wild. The early antipsychotics were basically viewed as chemical lobotomies or chemical kashas. The goal was indifference.
And if you accept that the mechanism of action is actually sedation, then the survey data makes so much more sense. What was the #1 reported side effect in that patient survey?
Daytime somnolence, tiredness, almost 69% of people.
Right. So if we view that as a side effect of a cure, it seems annoying. But if we view it as the primary effect of a drug designed to sedate you,
it changes the whole conversation.
Completely.
It even explains the communication gap. The data showed nearly 30% of patients stopped taking their medications specifically because of these effects. And they tell their friends, not their doctors.
So they aren't being non-compliant.
No. They're rejecting the altered state the drug puts them in.
They're weighing the cost of that numbness against their distress. And that's the big takeaway here. These aren't precise targeted missiles. They are biological carpet bombs. They alter everything.
Which leaves us with a really difficult question for you listening. If we strip away the marketing of the chemical cure and acknowledge that these drugs work by inducing an altered state of consciousness, a chemical constraint, how does that change the idea of informed consent? Would you say yes to the pill if you knew the goal wasn't to fix you but to change you? Thanks for diving deep with us.